Peace and respect to you all. Welcome to Demolished Doctrine, the beginning of the end of religion, and an episode just talking with Batman144 or Odean144. Or who are you today?
I'm just Batman144.
Batman144. I wrote your name wrong. I should have to edit that. All right. So just before we started, I made the observation that you're normally in a fairly decent mood. And I was wondering why that is true.
Man, you know what? The simple answer is, I tend to not hold on to things, negative things in particular. Um, uh, I guess you can call it having a free flowing mind. So, um, I guess that will come off as being positive for the most part. Um, However, I'm more so in a neutral state. But whenever I get to engage in, the activity of demolishing doctrines with Mr. Richard here, I tend to get pretty giggly.
All right. Are you purposefully or accidentally following the fourfold path of Buddhism?
um, I would say a little bit of both. Um, because I say a little bit of both because I'm I'm still learning. And as far as, I guess, the ritualistic and the spiritual aspects of it, and I will fully admit I do not focus very much on the spiritual aspect of Buddhism in general. Just I just mainly focus on the, I guess, the mental practice of Zen Buddhism.
Right on. Peace and respect, Pixie Storms and Bumblebee Tuna.
Bumblebee Tuna.
Sorry, that just slipped out. That was I didn't mean to do that. But I mean, it was just free flow thought. It's all Odean's fault. He was saying about being free flowing in your thought, and I just went with something. Forgive
There
me.
you go. There you go. You listen. So part of my job, well, one of the jobs I do is graphic design, and I pump out a lot of designs a day, right? And to at first it was pretty intimidating because I'm like, where am I going to find all of this creative energy, you know? And eventually, after some time, I realized that having a free flowing mind, it allows my creativity to just flow.
Go on and go flow with it, baby.
I don't know. I was a little too free flowing for a while. Had to rein that shit in and install a filter.
Did you just call yourself a hippie?
Pixie?
Me? I'm half hippie, half rebel.
Oh, shit. Got it.
But aren't we all? I mean,
Yeah.
deep in our hearts, really, on some topic or another.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm pretty hippie, yeah.
Yeah, you really are. Like you ought to. If you don't have something tie-dyed, consider it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. I have some stuff. I need to get like
Alright.
some sweaters and stuff though. It's getting cold.
Oh my gosh, Bree. I have this shirt that I just every time I see it, I want to send it to you. So every now and then I go through my mom's closet, right? And I got all this stuff she kept. Like I never could share clothes with my mom. But now I can fit into stuff that she wore when she was younger than me. So, like I have raided her closet and I've got like these vintage dresses and vintage shirts from like the 70s and late 60s and I've got some dresses from the 50s. Like I've got stuff like that. And there's this shirt that is straight from my grandmother's 50s. Don't ask. Okay, so there's this shirt that is straight from the 70s, like early 70s, and it has the V pattern in the front and the back. It's got these tiny little blue birds on it. It's got lace, and it ties on the sides under the arms, and it's just adorable.
Ooh, I would wear that. I would totally wear that.
Wait, Bree, how tall are you? Because Pixie's
Pixie's a
families
tiny
are all
person?
midgets. They're all midgets.
My mom's taller than me, though. My dad's side's the short side, actually.
I'm like 5'11".
Oh yeah, it would still fit you.
I'm kind of tall.
So
For a woman,
because
I'm
they're
tall
vintage.
anyway. But
Because they're vintage, I never hemmed them. I just pin them when I wear them in a way that can't be seen. But I refuse to get them hemmed because they're vintage.
Peace and
'cause that
respect,
would
Corey. Welcome.
Hello.
yeah, you don't want to alter that if it's vintage. At least not unless you find somebody with a vintage sewing machine, then you can make it work.
Not in this city. No.
Yeah.
so
Welcome, Corey.
Hello.
Okay,
Should we
back
all
on
make our-
topic. Sorry, I derailed it because Bree
No.
came in and I got all like girly.
Just everybody saying
Yeah,
hello.
we started
It's
talking
great.
about clothes.
yeah, that's fine.
The girls started talking about clothes, and we're going to drive everybody away from your side chat. Sorry.
Okay,
Should we all
so
switch to Demolished Doctrine avatars?
Sure, if you like. If that makes you happy. Go ahead, Batman.
okay, so the conversation that I would like to engage in largely comes from me trying to understand and explore Richard's worldview or religious worldview. Is that the right? Please let me know if I'm wrong.
Sure,
Right.
why not?
And during the discussion, I kind of came to the conclusion that in order for human beings to ascend, whatever that might mean, right, we need a semi hive mind in order to reach new heights or to reach another level of civilization.
A good example of that might be the internet and us using mathematics as a worldwide language so that we can all talk and try to understand each other better.
Exactly. So I guess since you guys are on the panel, how do you guys think that human beings can achieve a semi hive mind to reach the next level of civilization?
I don't think we can.
I was gonna say I don't think we can. Like even even artificially, like the internet, I don't think we can. And here's why. As wonderful as the internet was, right? As many answers it was supposed to hold, and as many great things as it did a lot of damage too, right? People aren't finding the truth at any greater rate than they were before because you have a tendency to go find something that agrees with you and you stop there, right? People there's a lot of propaganda, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of use of fear and spreading of hysteria, right? There's as much misdirection in this hive mind as there is direction. And until we find a way around being pack animals, not just social creatures, but absolute pack animals, meaning that there has to be an other by default, right?
Right.
So until we can get around that, I don't think even an artificial hive mind can help.
I
Okay.
think it's almost certainly. I don't think it's impossible, but what we're at right now, it's just too many things that we have to take into account. And so I even think with like virtual reality, or we are able to go into a matrix-like world where we can simulate everything. I think there's just too many ends and odds to actually get something that will work that way.
All right, I gotta break this down just a little bit because I want to lay some groundwork for some maybe what I consider misconceptions about what a hive mind entails. So when we think of a hive, generally we think about insects, ants, termites, those kind of organisms, and the way that they behave and interact with one another. I think that we think about that in the wrong way because an ant is an individual, a bee, a wasp, whatever you want to pick out, a termite, as an individual is not that complex of an organism. It doesn't have a complex brain or complex thinking patterns. What it has is all these epigenetic drivers to respond to chemicals in the environment that are released by the hive. The hive, when it comes to these organisms, are not individuals, but they are one super organism made up of individuals that are pumping chemicals into the environment to trace their biology through the world and interact with it that way. So you need to think of a hive as a single organism, in which case you can't really take
let
a
me throw
human in our
let me throw an
complex
analogy
brain.
out there. They're like using their environment as like we use our synapses.
Right, yeah, they're just
Okay.
exactly. They lay down chemical trails like we do with our synapses to help them navigate and say who goes where and what we need here, what we need there. That's why they can build the bridges and make the towers and do all this complex group organizations. So it's quite different than what you think of when you say hive mind. Like when people talk about a race of sentient entities that have a hive mind, totally different, because I don't think that concept can exist in reality. Something with a complex of a mind, as a human, you're going to become too individualistic to respond to those chemical environmental factors. You know what I mean?
So that's why I coined the term semi hive mind with that in consideration, just to kind of go back into the conversation that we were having. So one of the things that I used as an example, right, is let's say um, a specific goal that us as humans want to achieve, right? Yellowstone's going to explode at some point, right? And so in order for humans to live within the aftermath of that explosion, right? Wouldn't we have to work together as a unit, as one organism, so to speak, right? Obviously not physically, because we're not communicating via chemicals. We're communicating, verbally, right?
Right. We're
So
more tribal too, so it's hard to
That's why I
cross
said
that
well,
pack
line.
yeah,
animals. That's why I said we're not just social creatures, we're pack animals, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Living
yeah. But
troops of clans.
I think the instinct um, to 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 maintain the species that will eventually kick in over everything else,
Well, it's
right?
it's
And
layered, right? So you care
yeah,
about your immediate people group, your family, and then you care about your community beyond that. Maybe even a sector of your community first before the full community,
hmm
and then beyond that, your nation or whatever. Then maybe it extends to, for some people, to the race. Not saying that that's everybody's position, but some people are that way, and then it would extend to your species, and then beyond that,
okay,
maybe you might extend it to other primates, even, or
Well,
just mammals in general. Because I think a lot of people draw that line there at mammals, like reptiles and stuff, they're averse to, but mammals, they're. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting off track. Go ahead.
No,
even
that's
even
perfect.
species though, I think the only I'm not saying we can't like it's impossible to evolve to a place where this is possible given the global connection we have these days. But I think if we're looking at where we are now, right? I think the only thing that would make us consider ourselves one, like one human race, was if we faced an external threat that didn't differentiate between us. And I think that unity would last only as long as that threat lasted.
What does everyone think about Jason Jacoby's comments, or just a unified goal or enemy? Would everyone
That's what I'm saying.
generally
Like if,
agree?
hmm
but I don't think we have that without a threat. Is what I'm saying. Because we're so pack animal like. I think the only way to have that common goal right now is to face a threat that doesn't differentiate between us. But that's as temporary as the threat is.
That's
I'm
true.
just thinking some dumbass because, like, how I see the world right now, even if there was a common enemy, I think most people would get on the side of the enemy. Like, yes, let's wipe out the human race. We're no good. Let's just join the other side. I can
I,
see it.
I don't think it would be. I think it would be more like. Have you ever seen the movie District 13?
Mm.
That is my favorite alien movie because I think that that is the one that's probably closest to the truth. I always joked and said aliens would never come here because they see what we produce and they're like, look, they kill each other, they dissect everything. Like, you don't want to go there, right? So, District 13, these aliens crash here. Humans freak out. They quarantine them off. They're like freaking out. People want to kill them. They're afraid of them. They think they're here to invade, all this stuff. Meanwhile, these poor aliens are just trying to get enough shit to leave. Like, they just want to leave, right? Like, it's crazy. Anyway, I'm like, yeah, that's probably how it'd go right there.
Okay,
All
so
right.
oh, sorry.
Brief little bit of business. It's okay. A little bit of business. I only have 6 spaces. I have 7 people. Is anyone short on time wanting to drop anyway?
Do you want to put me backstage and I can come back in later?
Well, someone just dropped, so there you have it. Keep going. That was it. It's just a little business.
Oh, okay.
Don't let it stop you.
So Richard, right? So in light of my assertion, right, the one that I'm making, within your
Hey,
worldview, as I currently
I'll be right
understand
back. So keep me in.
it. Okay.
Okay, P-Town.
In light of my base knowledge of it, right? Would you say that a natural disaster would be necessary in order for us to ascend? Like, is that something that just has to happen? Because I understand that Yellowstone plays a pretty huge part in getting to that point.
My view of these religious stories is that the quaking of the earth, the planet Kachina, the story of the god Vulcan, the story of the god Agnes, it is a super volcano, which is why all those stories exist. And it does play a major part, but I have to agree with Pixie on this. That is necessary and not sufficient.
Necessary, but not sufficient.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that in mind, right? Do you guys think it's and I know it's is it possible for us to achieve that particular state in a way that's like non-destructive, right? Like, for example, we tend to focus a lot of our resources on technology, right? Developing new technologies and stuff like that, right? um do you think that maybe human beings need to have like a global doctrine of, I don't know, like conquering our solar system, or mining the asteroids for more resources or something like that, right? Because from what I understand, is that sure, we operate in packs, right? But I think the interesting thing is that we all can develop our own self-interests, but our self-interests can align for whichever
But the
reason.
and I agree with you, but again, it's going to be temporary. And hear me out, because while you have a common goal, right? That's all well and good. But then the problem happens when you reach that goal and how those resources, not only how those resources are disseminated, but in the different way of life between those out there working and mining those asteroids and those
Mhm.
back on Earth and those on the ship between the commanders and the laborers. You're going to have the same pack dynamics that you
Mhm.
have here. You're just going to have them here and there and the comparison between the two.
So the reason why this ascension conversation is so important is because the super volcano explosion is not that's not even the big hitter, really, right?
Right.
The big hitter is the sun expanding out and eventually destroying us, and
That's
basically
still a
we're
few billion years off, though. I mean, we got time.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sure, right? And
Well,
I
hey,
guess,
can I step in for like just 1 second? Like, couldn't you argue that already we're already having
like climactic super events. Maybe not like Yellowstone exploding, which probably isn't going to happen. But like, you know, like for instance in Florida, Fort Myers just got taken out completely.
The problem with that, Tioga, is the people in South Africa are not going to hear about Fort Myers.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Which is what Pixie was saying, right? With like
Right.
the asteroid thing.
Yeah. So
So, yeah, we
this,
could band together for a global disaster. I don't think, and maybe that would push us towards evolution. But at that point, will we even be humans anymore? If we devolved to the point where we were operating at a eusocial level, where our brains
Oh,
weren't functioning as individuals anymore, will we even be a human species?
yeah, I mean, totally. Don't we already function so well together? Like, I don't think I don't think there's definitely not going to be a natural event where we just decide to. I guess you would have to like decide to be not human anymore, right? Like, would
But given that the sun, I mean, dying on us is so far out, is there a chance that we evolve? I won't say hive mind like a hive mind, but is there a chance that we evolve towards like more social, less pack animal?
Have you ever seen
Possibly.
Wally? That's where we're headed.
Yeah,
How
no,
like
about
no,
I'm
this?
just there's a
no.
chance we could I'm just saying there's a chance we could maintain our status in like
I
the
don't think we
social
have.
creatures without being like full force pack animals. There's a
Okay,
chance
guys,
of that.
let me just ask you all this: what if our estimate of the acceleration of global warming, climate change is just inaccurate, and it's going to be a lot faster than we think? So let's say it was within one human lifetime that this Earth became unlivable. Address that.
I guess we die, right? Like,
Well,
one human life.
I think a lot of people would die, and I
It
think a
would
lot
definitely
of
reduce our species. Yeah.
right. I
Yeah,
think there are some people who would come together and figure out how to work together and be cohesive, right? But like again, it's just rewinding the clock. It's just temporary because unless something changes, I think on a much deeper level, you're just going to see that play out in the generations to come, right? The same things.
I don't know
yeah.
about
So
that though. Like technology does progress though, doesn't it? Like, aren't we different from like the 1600s? You know?
Yeah, but if technology was wiped out, I mean, if we're in a disaster and the
Do you think
people
it
you
would be
find, like you're going to be lucky if you find a doctor to be in your group, right?
for
Or
sure?
somebody who knows about plants to be in your
But
group,
anyone who's
much
left
less
over,
somebody who can give you the internet.
for sure, you wouldn't have all the access to technology, but you would have like vastly more access to more information than you would
You would
have
still have
For
like
the
even
blueprint, right?
200 years
for
ago. Yeah,
reverse engineering alone, yeah, you could
yeah.
reverse engineer a lot easier.
that's an interesting
But
point,
but
right?
then you
And
would
I
just get right back into like the pollution, you're the hierarchies between
But
the
you wouldn't
workers and
start
the
over.
I mean, there's the very, very real possibility that we may see the fall of the U.S. at least, like the fall of Rome, and after the fall of Rome, I mean, look at those couple hundred years after that. I would
Oh,
not be
yeah.
surprised.
right. I don't mean start over technology wise. I meant it would start over with the same like reasons for division, right? Be it class or wealth or jealousy or like you would see the same fractures like
Like, but do you
Yeah,
think
socially.
we
for
hit that
sure.
reset button right now with the populations being spread out how they are of different ethnic groups and races that we would develop into distinct distinct races over time that are distinct from the races we have today based on geographic distribution?
That would certainly be
We
an eventuality, but it's
mm,
kind of hard to address that right
Well,
now.
we haven't already addressed it. So, like, yeah, if we had to reset back to something, of course that would appear. But I think that we're still vastly better than we still progress. I mean, we obviously have a history of having to reset every once in a while, but
so basically, right, we are getting better at being at least coexisting. Can we say that,
I
right?
think so.
So I don't know if anyone in here is like super good at math. Like if you can look at the rate of how we're progressing, at least socially speaking, in terms of not wanting to
What
bludgeon
would
each other and stuff like that, right?
what would be the metric for social project progress though?
I
How do you
mean,
measure suffering? I guess is would be a good.
I mean, well, I think personally, I think life is suffering. There's always going to be suffering. I think that's just a part of just existing in general.
Maybe like
So I
a
don't necessarily
three-dimensional
think.
gradient of wealth, a balance of wealth and happiness, and
I mean, sure, but maybe at the end of the day, wealth won't even necessarily be a thing because we could evolve to the point and have access to so much resources to where everyone would be able to just use
you're
whatever
talking
they
to a
want.
socialist, sweetie. I'm right there with you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's Star
Well,
Trek stuff,
maybe.
but what I'm saying is there a way to kind of estimate, right? Let's say in a million years, how far we're gonna reach, by that point, or the next 100 years or 200 years?
So that'd be
Because
like
if we don't,
speculative evolution, but specifically for humans, then, right?
well, yeah, but not. I'm not necessarily focused on the biological part of it, just more so the mental and social part of it, right? Because I
Well,
think that's the most important and fundamental thing to that we need in order to reach another level, or
I guess
type
that's
two
why I
type
pointed out
civilization.
that about the hive mindedness is that because it is it's not just a social change, that's a biological change. Biological
Wait,
stuff
what
has
do
to
you
happen in
mean
order
though?
for a species to go hive mind. What's
But
that,
like,
Tioga?
how like, what do you mean by like evolution and biological? Like that we have to biologically evolve to like
Yeah,
Well,
be.
yeah.
to be eusocial, to be hive
What do you
minded,
mean?
because
Like,
hive
what would?
minded is just like a layman's term for
But like,
eusocial.
what do you mean? Like, how would you how would you biologically evolve? Can't we just kind of do that right now with how we are and like our like what would have to evolve like in
It,
our brains? I guess.
For us
it
to
would be
be
really handy for that kind of cooperative effort if we all intrinsically knew the extrinsic person on a personal level.
Hmm.
Can't you just take acid and do that?
so
No,
so
you can take acid and perceive life as like that.
Yeah. So you're saying we have to evolve like a brain structure to do that kind of
yeah,
thing.
you to be hive minded, you would or like a way of communicating with each other where you are causing uh, biological responses in your body based on the chemicals that you're breathing in the air, that you're sensing, that you're touching. All of that has effects on how you react as an individual in your environment. All of that is driven by these chemical reactions in your little simple brain. The only purpose is to follow these drivers. Like you get connected
Well,
to
yeah.
this chemical arrangement. You go this way. You do the and you respond with a feeding
I,
response. You pick up
I,
food to carry it back home. You get this. There's a threat. You run. Whatever.
I have to say, Bree, this sounds really offensive to someone who considers themselves conscious. So maybe there's a happy medium in there somewhere
See this,
where I can still be me, but I can feel you. I can
yeah,
understand you.
yeah. It's
That
like
would be
Well,
this.
better,
but
I think.
still, well, like the evolution thing, like so, like in order to like perceive reality on that level, like we would have to somehow will ourselves into evolving a brain structure that can comprehend every like all the chemicals and all like the
Yeah.
You would
ramifications
have
of
to
our
give up
choices.
self, though. Is the
Can
thing
I?
about it? That's my point, I guess, that I'm making. Each individual organism in a hive is not in a hive minded
Okay, yeah,
structure is
no, I
not an
see. Yeah, yeah,
individual.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah,
So
I see what
so
you're saying. Then, yeah.
so for example, right, there's this anime called Heroic Age, right? And they have I guess tribes, so to speak, different races, right? You have the Golden Tribe, which is like a super godlike civilization, right? They've reached the peak of existence. You have the Silver Tribe, who is like getting there, right? And you have the Bronze Tribe, which is like a hive mind, right? and you have the Iron Tribe, which are humans. Now, the interesting thing with the Silver Tribe is that they all have the capacity to communicate and understand each other's, even their feelings, right, on a population scale. But they all have their own individuality, right? But because they're all enlightened in terms of wanting to achieve a singular goal, right? They've basically been able to push the envelope of getting close to the level of the golden tribe, so to speak, right? And so that's what kind of generated the idea of a semi hive mind, where yes, we have that level of I guess personal communication with each other, mentally speaking, right? But at the same time, we still maintain our individuals. But the only reason we're working in unison is because we have an ultimate goal. So we don't have to waste as much energy into trying to understand each other,
But
right?
what
We
happens?
just
I don't know. Right now,
What
I'm losing
what
a lot
happens?
of it.
What happens after the goal is what I'm saying, because that's my problem with orienting it on something. It doesn't
Well,
matter if it's a goal or a threat that's temporary. Either
but
both are temporary. Once the threat is gone or once you reach the goal, how do you prevent from the same fractures and the same divisions taking
Mhm.
place, because you no longer have that thing that was once unifying everyone.
Awesome. Good question. So, within Richard's worldview, from my understanding, right, when you have ascended, right, there is a goal, right? Ascended basically means when you've reached heaven, right? The goal is to essentially, um, um, what's the word? Terraform other planets, right? Create more human-like beings. Leave them, let them flourish or destroy each other, right? And if they've ascended up to a certain point, socially, technologically speaking, or whatever, we come back to them, and then we continue the trend. So the goal is this. Is this?
So the goal is endless.
Yes.
And if you want to ask why that's worth doing, I think that humankind is the emotional creature, the Adam, which has the experience of love, and I think that we are the experience of love in the universe.
yeah, yeah. Well, we totally
So
are because we experience love. But it's
What
so funny
in
we
God's
just
name are we
agreed.
talking about?
Batman and I just agreed about the yes thing is that, but I take a totally opposite view. I don't think you need to have any plans to conquer anything. I think you just simply need to accept the fact that there is no end goal. We are in a constant flux of
Okay,
change.
so
We don't
oh,
get to
it's not
choose.
conquering. It's terraforming. Basically, you'll take a planet that is um,
But
vacant.
that's not what Pixie's talking about. Pixie's not talking about geographical, she's talking, or they're talking about the struggles that society just faces generation after generation that are entirely societal.
No,
Sure, and how would we
the
defeat
reason,
that?
I think the reason that we're part of the reason we're so easily divided and so easily manipulated to be divided is simply the fact that by nature we are pack animals, and in order to have a pack there has to be an other, and in order for yours to be justified, yours somehow has to be better than the other, right?
Well,
And these
well,
things start over the pettiest things, over things like jealousy or miscommunication, or even imagining that someone somewhere else has it better than you, right? That the person
Okay,
above you has it better than you,
No,
things like that. So my
we're
thing is
divided.
in
hold
the
on, P-Town. Going to get to you in just
I'm
a minute,
not
I
saying
promise
that's
you.
why we're divided. I gave a few examples of how easily we can be divided.
we haven't solved those
But the
issues
thing
yet,
is, we are like pack animals. We're not just social creatures, we are pack animals by nature, right? And so
I don't
my
know what
my only my only problem with, and that it is important to have an unobtainable goal if you're basing it on a goal, because my only problem with the threat or a goal as the center of something like that was that
Sun
it was
runs out.
temporary.
Right. Okay, Tioga, I want you to know that everyone has been very patient and you are understandable, but your microphone it sounds echoey and distant. And that is why people are sometimes accidentally talking over you.
Oh,
Just so you
gotcha.
know that. So
Thank
don't be
you.
offended by that. It's just your microphone. And P-Town, you walked away. So if you're behind, that makes sense. What can we do to catch you up?
Well, the reason why there's so much disagreement here is because you've all been tricked by the devil into
P-Town,
believing a lie.
Oh, for the love of goodness.
P-Town, if that's who you are, then you're not interested in an honest conversation. If you are interested in an honest conversation, please stay.
If you would do me the respect, can you just give me a summary of what we're talking about? Because it's
We're
a
talking
little
about
distant from me.
Yes, it's okay. It's all right. I want to catch you up. But those kinds of assertions are not helpful. Whereas if you've shown your point instead of just asserting it, that might be helpful. Okay. So that's the kind of channel this is. If you'll show why you mean a thing rather than just state it, that would be better. Okay.
I'm definitely
I-
interested in this dev
I
and what he's doing.
I
to me.
understand. Sorry, I don't mean to offend. I'm just trying to be brief in my statement without taking up too much of your time on your channel. I didn't
Okay.
mean to offend. Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's just it's beneath the conversation, and I want you to be at your best and say things well. If they're worth saying well. Please do that. But to catch you up with the conversation, we're talking about the human beings on this planet in a state of ascension, whether that be caused by us or caused by some God being. And what would necessitate that? What would we need? That's the conversation.
Can you define ascension?
Sure. Sentient just means like aware.
I
No, he
think
said
therefore I
define
am.
ascension. Define
I think
ascension. That's
therefore
what
Oh,
I am.
ascension. I thought you said
Ascension.
sentient.
Ascension.
Sorry
Yeah.
about that. Ascension. Yes, leaving this planet into a more permanent and maintainable situation. Ascension.
Okay, so far, I'm getting the impression that everything talked about so far has this evolution kind of belief behind it. Is that
We've not been
accurate?
talking about evolution. We've been talking about human nature and what humans need.
Okay, so there's none of that behind it.
Well,
It's
social.
not the topic.
I mean, whether
If
how
you
we
want to have
interact
that
with each other.
conversation, there are those here who'd love to schedule that conversation with you. I'm one of them, but that's not this conversation.
But you're welcome to join this conversation if you're down. We'd love to have you.
Right. I guess what I'm trying to explain is that it seems like the direction that the conversation's going in, it has a starting point to it. And I'm trying
Yes.
to
The starting point is we can't live on this earth forever. That's the starting point.
Yeah,
Where do we go
okay,
from
we're
here?
talking about
yeah.
moving to other planets
Well, some of us
or to other areas.
Yeah, how many people would
Maybe.
survive? What types of people would survive? How would they get off the planet? Where would they go? What would they do? You know, will our
Yeah.
technology be advanced enough to
What are
get
the
away from the
social
planet before
changes?
it's too late?
Yeah.
Things like that.
All of that stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty cool, huh?
I think
It's based on
I think it's intriguing.
I think that the impression I got was accurate then, because in order to think millions of years from now or thousands of years from now, tens of thousands of years from now, you have to believe that we've ascended from 10,000 years
Why?
ago.
No, we
Why?
haven't.
Years ago,
No.
right?
We haven't.
Why can't we look at social
haven't-
psychology and our interactions with
We haven't
each other
agreed
and how that
to
has
ascend.
changed over time?
We haven't agreed that we need to ascend to anything technically. It's just kind of a word that's being thrown around a little bit.
Yeah, that too.
It's just a new topic of conversation for me, and I'm actually enjoying it.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah, absolutely. It's what kind of governments? So what the example that we did was the volcano, the Yellowstone going up. Okay, wipes out North America, basically puts everything into a blackout. We have the next where do you see us the next 50 years if that happens? What kind of governments do you think we'll have? Tribal, feudal?
Okay, all right. Thanks for the good example. You were giving an example, right?
Yeah, for you to
Okay.
use. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, what do you guys stand on that? 50 years out, what kind of governments do we have? I would think we'd probably have maybe commodity driven feudal systems.
Boy, that sounds likely.
I want to know what Pixie thinks in 50 years. No,
Let's get the newbie go first. Come on, P-Town.
I missed that last part. What?
Yeah, where would we be? I said I suggested that we'd be in like commodity driven feudal systems. Commodity lords. Oil, whether the commodities oil or food.
Are you talking
or
about
whatever.
something that encompasses the entire globe?
Yes.
good question.
Let me think about it for a minute.
Okay,
Please
so
take your
let's
time.
say-
We're not trying to put you on the spot at all.
Yeah.
Okay,
we're
let's
being
see.
pretty chill, open about the conversation.
Yeah.
Sorry for having to get caught up here.
No, you're cool.
No,
I know
you're
you
cool.
came in here expecting maybe some evolutionary debate. That is something we can get set up in the future. I love debating evolution myself. I know Richard will debate it with you. Pixie will go into it with you too. And I think that's all Tioga likes to talk about half the time. So
where do I think we'll be in 50 years?
After Yellowstone were to explode, I don't know, tomorrow or something.
Where would we be in 50 years if Yellowstone exploded tomorrow?
In the ground.
yeah, if you lived in North America, probably, yeah.
I don't, like I said, I think it would be like I think you would find groups of people banding together, right? I think it would be like tribal, and I think those tribes would establish trade with other tribes that they found as the need saw fit. You may even see tribes gathering together for more numbers, right? Especially if migration is needed. But what that looks like outside of something very tribalistic, I'm not sure. I mean, you could see, and that's where it gets hard, is because I would love to say that, it's going to be great and everybody's going to help each other and there's going to be all this great trade. But that we're humans, right? And so there's going to be some jackasses out there that are going to be like, no, this is ours and you can't have any and we will watch you starve and who gives a fuck, and it's just going to be a mess.
So would you say that, like, take for example, Yellowstone exploding is probably going to lead to the Earth cooling, right?
On the long term, I don't know about in 50 years. Well, yeah, it would be
50
cool in 50
years? Yeah, it'll be
Yeah.
cool.
well, depending on where you're located, if you're still in because the volcanoes are going to be boiling
Bumblebee,
stuff.
let me give you the USGS estimates as I've studied them. Of course, my brain's not perfect, but this will be in the ballpark. An immediate 20-degree drop over North America, everything that is east of Yellowstone, because of the cloud itself. That cloud spreading out and circling the northern hemisphere. The temperature gets to about 13 degrees over Europe, all the way back around to Russia, Asia, about 7 degrees, the whole northern hemisphere at about 7 degrees, bleeding over not so much in pollution, just in temperature change into the southern hemisphere, total Earth drop of about 5 degrees.
Oh, wow. I just
I'm talking about.
I think something like that would be true, and I think we would blame
That's
it
less
on.
than a year.
Listen,
I think we would blame it on the human intervention. So, like, I think we would blame it on like the Russians or something.
P-Town, they already do, which is why you said the word Russia.
They blamed it on the Russians already?
No, they're already blaming it on North Korea and Russia. That's why you feel threatened by their nuclear weapons.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I guess I'm ahead of the curve. I didn't know that.
You sort of are, yeah.
Are you talking about Yellowstone?
Yeah, are we talking
Yes,
about Yellowstone?
it looks like there's every intention to tell a story to calm people, to make it seem not as bad as it is, so they don't overreact too much, to tell them that we are in a nuclear war.
Oh yeah, they definitely just throw around like nuclear weapons and stuff. The word for sure.
No,
But will
I'm
Putin blow up
serious.
Yellowstone?
I'm serious. I think with the natural eruption of Yellowstone, they're going to talk about it as if it were had been a nuclear war that's already over.
From like Russia? No, Yellowstone's not going to really erupt like anytime soon.
No, that's not necessarily true, Tioga. Although if you ask Lowenstern, the main scientist on Yellowstone, he would give your answer that you're right. Okay, but Lowenstern and USGS don't study the sun. However, science that does study the sun has found a particle that lowers the viscosity of semi-solid rock and would encourage, in a serious solar ejecta, the eruption of all volcanoes. It would encourage all of them simultaneously.
That'd be
and
real
and,
tough then.
and that would be most likely to be most effective, that particle, while the poles are flipping. And the University of Berkeley, California, in their estimates, have now observed that the poles will be completely flipped within the next 80 years. And
Yeah,
that
but
was
that
10
doesn't
years
mean
ago.
that Yellowstone's going to blow up.
Demolish this in. So, do you think it's going to flip back and forth, like I think that happened during the global flood?
Well, P-Town, we have seen crustal movement and really heavy duty crustal movement. I think there's been 3 occurrences of that. It might have been as many as 5. I'm not great on that point. Okay. But we have seen it in the past, and we saw things move suddenly, and certain things spring up to life, and certain things die because of their new location on the planet. Okay. And this is something that Einstein and his buddies were trying to figure out back when Einstein got old and died. But they were looking for an internal cause, but we have found the external cause.
So, with those things in mind,
the sun.
Yeah, that big ball of energy in the sky. Yeah, it has some effects on us.
I agree with you.
Yeah, some. No,
Let's see what Batman has to say.
Okay, so with those things in mind, right? 50 years from now, wouldn't that be an opportunity to, okay, essentially try to create I guess, a semi hive mind at that point, right, to maximize survival?
Is that a good incentive? I think it's definitely a good incentive.
Why do we? I still don't understand why we need like a hive mind to
semi
work together.
Well, go ahead.
No,
you guys hash that out.
Oh, what's your question?
I don't understand. Like, I still don't understand why we need to have like a hive mind to, like, give everyone equal economic resources and like thrive as a species.
Well,
something about hives that I also forgot to mention. Everything in a hive is a clone. It's a so that's why they're able to function the way they do, because most of the organisms don't in the colony don't breed. Only the queen and the males breed. So,
and Bumblebee, you would appreciate this comment by William Freeman. Just don't make me a drone.
Right, that's exactly my point. That's why they're so altruistic, because they're basically defending their little clones of the queen, that they're all defending the master organism, so to speak. That's
strange too.
One direction that I think our species is capable of going.
Well, it's funny that the Bible talks about the ants, right? It says I think it says like the ants, they're the type of people, they're not strong like by themselves. Mm-hmm. Yet I think it says like, yet they prepare their food in advance.
Right.
For times of trouble. And in a way you can it's kind of an analogy for a lot
Yeah.
of things.
They
Yeah,
actually
but
farm
look at
too.
see, it's the efficiency that that's really important to me, right? Because if you look at ants, I guess being the example that we're using, when it comes to how they farm, how they collect food, right? Just how they survive almost any situation, right? Um, they are they communicate as a unit, and I think the thing that we have that they are lacking is that we have more mental tools available to us, right?
Mhm.
And so in a situation where, let's say, they're being flooded, right? They don't have the
Right.
capacity to maybe, well, it depends on the ant species, because fire ants, for example, just ball up and create
Hmm.
a raft, and they'll
Pretty
survive a
cool.
flood, right? So I know
Pretty
it
cool what
depends.
God made, huh?
Yeah, so that's why I'm thinking that having that semi hive mind, right? Having that ultimate goal of survival, right, would be the most efficient way to achieve our goals, just like as the human species.
Okay, Pixie, are you around? I can take a 7-minute break, or should I ask someone else?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, it's all you.
Um, okay. But I also like my problem with the
I think you
semi-hive mind
just one more
is
quick thing. Just one more quick
yeah.
thing. I think in order to achieve that, I think you're going to need some level of tyranny.
Right. We're all
Well,
going to know that God did this.
I would think tyranny would automatically be included in having a hive mind or a semi-hive mind, right? Because anytime I don't even know that I'd classify myself as human at that point it, um, because in this scenario, either I have no secrets, meaning I have no privacy and I have no individuality and I have no autonomy, or it's semi and I have some level of privacy and autonomy and individuality, which only means that the system can be corrupted, right? So
Yeah.
I
So in
I
order
don't
to
know.
mitigate that, there will have to be some kind of tyranny to keep, I guess, the
Does there?
deviators from deviating, so to
But does
speak.
there have to be that way, or can you incentivize? If you're talking about hive minds, can't we just not incentivize every aspect of life so people behave accordingly?
I mean, sure, because if we're operating as a hive, right, I think we would deal out jobs and responsibilities based on abilities and mindsets,
Yeah, and
right? So
also resources and
uh,
benefits.
yeah, so
And there'd be
this,
eugenics.
Maybe, but maybe not.
You're going to have to get a driver's license to have a baby,
Or a
a
car.
license, or a car.
yeah, I
Well,
think
can I play devil's advocate, Batman?
sure.
Okay. Can ants build a home like we have? I know they can build a really big tower. Can they build one the way that we do? Can they send a man to the moon? I mean, can they discourse like we are?
If you
Can
judge a
they?
fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll look like an idiot.
Exactly. I was going to say, and on what level
Like,
does any of this suit them? In what way would it like?
they're still
I will
ants.
agree. I will agree. Hold on. I will agree that you come very close to something I toy with a lot, which is that it to me sometimes it seems like the only real distinction between us as humans and a lot of the rest of the animal kingdom is our ability to imagine and to not well, I shouldn't say to imagine things not existing and to
Correct.
collectively believe in fiction. Those seem to be
And
the two things that you don't see happening in a lot of other creatures.
God damn it, you're smarter than you know. I mean, that's the age-old question, right? The
But
definition of consciousness.
I don't think that that means I have a soul, right? I think
Well,
that means I'm
let's
lucky and
start.
I have a very complex chemistry that allows me to have this awareness, and that's pretty amazing in itself. But I don't think I have a soul, and I don't think I was created, right? Like, I just don't.
Well, I understand that, but let's find common ground first and something that we can agree on. Is that okay? That you were talking about something that makes us unique as humans, which is our ability to go, oh, I recognize that I'm thinking, and therefore
Seems
I'm
well, no, not thinking.
Sure,
Let me back up.
sure.
Not thinking. See, and also seems to be, because again, I can't prove it. We prove a lot of things that we used to think was impossible, right? Like, animals don't have emotion, and plants can't communicate, and all these things have been proven wrong, right? They do communicate, and they communicate in very complicated ways, right? Through the mycelial network. Whole forests will act as a unit, communicating with each other. So obviously these other life forms are capable of much more than we thought they were. So I will only say it appears. It appears the thing that separates us is that we don't fully live in our reality, that we are capable of imagining things that do not yet exist, and we are capable of collectively believing in fiction, which is both great but also detrimental.
Well, you would define it as fiction, but also we ask the question, where did we come from and where are we going? Those are the age-old questions I'm referencing, and that's the thing that makes us unique compared to the other
It is
animals.
unique, but I will say that when I say fiction, I'm not trying to be offensive to you. I'm not even necessarily limiting it to like religion or things like that. For example, money, right? Like, that piece of paper isn't worth $20. It's worth $20 because we have all collectively agreed that this represents the value of $20, right? It is a fiction we believe in, and so I think it even goes down to things like that. I wasn't intending to be disrespectful of you or your beliefs.
You're not being disrespectful at all. We would agree
Yeah.
that it's still a piece of paper, right? I mean, but I think
Yeah.
that if you go back to, and I'm not a big philosophical guy, I can have the conversation, but I don't like playing fancy words. But people who do like playing fancy words will do silly experiments like draw red dots on animals like dolphins and gorillas, and some of them will point at the dot and notice the dots on their head, and they'll say, oh, look, they're self-aware, they have consciousness, as far as we like to play word games and define it. But I would say that there's a difference between noticing there's a dot on your head and recognizing that, oh, I think, therefore I am, and I would like to think, where did I come from and where am I going?
Well, of course
And
there's
that's
a difference.
But I think the
right, and that's something that
importance.
makes us unique.
I think that's
I think the
an unfounded
importance.
claim, though. I don't
I
think
think
there's
the
anything backing
import.
it up.
I think the importance of an animal recognizing itself, right? It's not that it sees the red dot on its forehead, right? Like, that's not the point of the experiment, right? And it's just like when the elephant first sees itself in a mirror, right? The experiment is not, do they see it or do they recognize it as another elephant, right? Are they going to charge it because they think another elephant's looking at it? It's, do they recognize that they are looking at themselves? Are they aware that that is them?
As in
That
themselves,
they
So
have a
on that
as in
level,
reflection.
something
just
other
on a
than their
very
physical
simple,
body.
No,
Something like a
do they
self.
recognize that that is a reflection of them? That they are
That is
looking
their
at them?
individuality. That's their
their
It's
image,
like when you
their
look in the
literal image,
mirror.
like
When you look in the
of them.
mirror, you don't say, "Oh my God, there's some stranger in the mirror." No, you look in the mirror and you say, "That is me." You are self-aware that that is my image right there, right?
I
And
look
And
in
this
the
that's
is
mirror
what
and
they're
and
see
this is
testing.
Batman.
and this is where I would have to push on it a little bit. And I agree with you in every way, but there is a difference between an ant, or let's just say a gorilla, looking at a dot and noticing that they themselves are in that mirror and then pointing at the dot on their forehead. There's a difference between that and you and me, who are part of humans who made a house,
I
who
get
made a
that.
What is
computer
that
to
difference? I don't agree
communicate
with you there.
with each other over,
Well,
you know,
that's
Right,
what
but
using
you just said.
electricity over the air. There's a
okay,
big difference. You
right,
follow
but
me?
the thing is, but realizing that they recognized themselves, right, was also only the first step. in a lot of those experiments, right? Like it didn't stop there. It's not like, oh, they recognize themselves, they're self-aware, right? Like a gorilla, for
Correct.
example, a gorilla recognizes symbols, they can learn sign language, they can understand us far better than we can understand them, right? Like these are things that they have awareness of. Now, can we teach them to build a rocket? I don't know. I don't know. Probably not, you know, not at least not for a very long time. But the fact that they can even bridge that gap in a way that we're not able to shows that they're far more intelligent and far more ingenuitive than we ever gave them credit for. Right? So it's not like these studies just stopped there because they recognized themselves. It was like, oh my God, they recognized themselves. I wonder what else they're capable of.
Sure, but you're asserting that that leads to something else that is so far ahead of just pointing at a dot on your forehead in a mirror.
What's
Like
that,
what
though?
you and
What
I
is
are
it?
doing right now, communicating through another system
I don't
where I'm
think
just watching little flashing
But I
lights
told
is
you plants
different.
plants do that. Plants I guess you could call it almost a telegraph system, almost an internet system before we even had it, right? That's how the forest communicates. They use the mycelial network, which is just tiny little fungi spores through root systems to communicate with each other. This is a sophisticated form of communication way before we had it.
And
They've
they
just
terraform.
always
They
had it,
like
right?
But
So you're
they're
looking at
not
this
on
from a
their
very human-centric point of view, in my
it
opinion.
actually is. We've looked at the electrical impulses because the way that this system works is like synapses in the human brain. It fires messages down, and there are messages in there telling different parts. And it's not just one organism. There's multiple organisms that make up this mycelium network. It's
And
called the
and different species communicate with each other, right? Like the
yeah,
trees communicate with the
yeah, with
shrubs,
funguses, and it's a
everything. Yeah,
composite organism that communicates under the ground. And we look at the way that it looks just like speech and like brain waves, the way that it looks on the
and they
graphs.
know each other is even there when like they're not touching each other in any way. They like literally signal in ways that we don't even
Yeah,
completely understand.
exactly. So when you look at this in a human-centric way, it's sure to it's really easy to be like, yeah, we're super
Right.
special. But when you look at what they're capable of, that we didn't even bother to know that they're capable of, it makes us seem a little less special, in my opinion.
Or even
We're a little different, yeah, but they're a little
Different,
different than
yeah.
us.
Well, I mean, we're not. There's nothing special about what we do other than the degree
Right.
at which we do it. We're like proficient at a few. Every organism is proficient at certain
At certain
functions. That's
things.
why
Well,
that's why they fill their ecological niche, right? But
well, I just have to say I disagree in one way. You won't see an ant or a cow or a dog or whatever or a tree bow down and worship the God that created us.
What
was
how
very
would you know what
timely.
that look? How
Or
would
even,
you?
yeah.
Okay, given that we've previously established that at least particular creatures like apes are much better at understanding us than we are of them. They're much better at bridging that gap. They can understand what we're doing far better than we can understand what they're doing. So knowing that, how would you begin to know what worshiping even looks like to them or their form? Because without
Pixie,
a human-centric view.
there's one thing that apes are better than us at, and that would be climbing trees. Like I think that I don't know, your assertion or your premise or whatever terminology it is. I think it's wrong.
Well,
I wouldn't agree with you.
I think the
To
arrogance
state that
it
it's
takes to
fact is
assume that you
arrogant.
know what something
What is
looks like
wrong?
in a life form you don't even know about is wrong. But that's just me, and we can agree to disagree there.
We can agree to disagree. That's fine.
But like, what does it even matter if they do or do not like worship a god? What if they just don't?
Because God does exist, and God did make this world.
that's not true, though. That's just something that you believe.
It's
Mhm.
not. It's
No, it's not.
obvious.
It's objectively not true, but you believe it.
Right.
False.
How do you know it's objectively not true?
Because the
Okay, wait, no, I got this. Well, like, okay, what if I just don't believe in God?
That doesn't say anything about it not being true.
This whole conversation, this is why it's dangerous to me, is talking about how similar and not similar we are to animals. We're different from animals.
we are animals.
God made us in
We are
God's
animals, babe.
image.
You're an animal. I'm an animal. You're actually a primate. You're actually an ape.
God
that
made us
new?
in His image.
Yeah.
Made
Well,
us so we can seek
you
Him
do
and
say
love.
that, but I can say anything else too, and
So
just
God's
kind
an
of
ape.
say
So
it's true,
then you
right?
worship an ape. I can get on board with that.
Well, you guys can worship creeping. Like you literally the whole premise of this discussion, I mean, has been foretold in Scripture.
Are you saying
I
that we're
mean,
worshiping creeping things because we're talking
as
about
far
like
as
ants?
right, as far as the Bible defines it, you're worshiping creeping things, guys.
Like
And
just
I'm
because we're
sorry.
talking about
I
it,
do consider
Yeah,
myself
that's
a
part of worship.
Zionist.
Yeah.
so we're not supposed to
Well,
talk about anything else but God, right?
hold on 1 second. Let me just get the
Okay, I'm
floor.
sorry.
Okay. Okay. So P-Town, with all due respect, right? And I'm a Christian, right? I believe in Christ, right? And I'm gonna be frank with you. The discussion that we're having is not necessarily, how should I put this, limited to the biological aspect of things, right? Or necessarily just, you know, let's say focused on religion, right? Now, like take for example, right? In the conversation that we're having is about, okay, human beings becoming better. Simply put, how can we become better human beings to the point where if we have if we experience a disaster, right, where we could weather that disaster, or even, and even if it's planet wide, right? We could go to space. What would it take as a species, right? Us human beings to be able to achieve that goal. Now, we're not discussing one specific way to do it. We're all just kind of throwing things out there, right? But if you want, right, you could make you can come up with an idea or a way we can achieve that, right? Through, let's say, Christianity for whatever reason, right? You can make a biblical backed
Yeah,
argument,
I listen to
right, and
that.
stuff like that. So I'm sharing
Well,
this with
can
you so we don't derail the conversation, because the conversation is about that.
can I don't want to interrupt your conversation, but I ask you a question, Batman?
Sure.
Do you believe in evolution as a Christian?
Evolution is something that we observe every day. Your
Do
child
you
being
believe in
born.
evolution? This is my point,
Yes.
is this is part of the conversation that we're having. It's okay.
Okay.
I can leave, guys. I don't want to interrupt too much, but if you want me here, I can be here.
I
It's
mean,
up to
no
Well,
you.
one's
we do
telling you
want you
no one's
here. We
telling you to
try to stay
leave.
on topic. I
Uh,
was getting off topic too. It wasn't just you. Me and you were getting pretty hot back and forth about
Just
the
if I can
evolution
just if
thing,
I
and
can
that's
just
cool. I
say
want to do
why.
that with you, but
Mhm.
we're not going to do it here because Richard doesn't want us to. We're
yeah, yeah.
gonna.
Hold on. I'll give an example. Right. Yesterday, I believe it was yesterday when me and Richard were talking, we started to have this conversation, right? I used one of the premises we can base a hive mind off of, right? Was the first, the first commandment, right? The first and second commandment, right? And so, or just let's say love your neighbor as you love yourself, right? Creating a hive mind solely based on that commandment and concept. Is it possible for us to flourish as a society, right? To get to the next level, using that? That's something biblical. So I'm just using that as a loose example, right? To where you'll be able to engage in the conversation and kind of give your ideas as to how we can, achieve this goal. I don't know, pretend that an asteroid is going to hit the Earth that could wipe
And you
out
want to go
most
to
of the
another planet, but
population.
you declare yourself as a Christian when everything
Yes, I
that you're
am.
saying goes against the Bible.
So what did I say that goes against the Bible?
From the beginning to the end of the Bible, it's all focused on earth, my man. And you're talking about fleeing it.
So
Isn't
I
that
have a
your interpretation, though? Could
It's
it?
what the Bible says, and you should agree as a Christian. It's
so
clear.
so
Couldn't
Okay.
So what I'm saying
revelation
is,
take place
Okay.
in
you
another
want.
Point of
planet?
order.
so
Point of order. P Town.
I'll take
I'm
off. I'm
going.
sorry. Yeah, that's
No,
fine.
no, please, no. Don't guess what I'm going to say. You're not good at it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. So I want you to be part of the conversation. I specifically invited you here tonight. So don't let us, neither one of us, forget that. Okay, as well as I did Batman and Pixie. All right, but I'm going to have to say something to you because what you just said, and I want you to seriously think about it. I mean this in Christian love. I mean this because I believe you are a brother of mine and a child of God. I sincerely mean that. When a person assumes they're right, that is completely natural. If you assumed you were wrong, you'd find out how you were wrong and you'd change your mind, and then you'd be more right about that thing. That makes sense to you so far?
I agree with what you're saying, absolutely.
Okay. All right. But if you assert that what you are presently convinced of could never change under any circumstances, if you say something like, I am right about this, and there's no way that you could be wrong about a thing, well, you might as well be suffering from some kind of dementia.
Can I defend myself a little bit?
Absolutely.
I'm trying to put the Bible ahead of myself, right? Even Jesus did that.
But you're not doing that.
If I'm not, then just let me know how I'm not.
Okay, you're not, because you're assuming you're already right about the Bible when you may be wrong.
If I'm wrong, let me know about the Bible.
Well, let me tell you, the first way that you're wrong is by assuming you must be right.
You're leaning on your own understanding.
Okay, I'm going to let Pixie back in. Thank you so much.
Okay. But I agree with his
No, Richard,
premise.
come back. I can come back in later.
But
you can participate. This is your stream. Sorry.
Sometimes the biggest hindrance to discovering the truth is the assumption that we already have it. And I agree with him. And I don't want to give that impression, but as a Christian man who loves the Bible, I have to defend it, and it's not really a choice of mine. It's what I have to do.
But at the point where you start attacking somebody else who believes in the Bible, you're not defending the Bible, you're defending your theology or your interpretation of the Bible. And I think there's a very big difference between the two, but that's a nice convenient shield there. Sorry, that was not nice at the end. Done.
You're okay, Pixie. Even though you're wrong, you're okay. Batman might even agree that he didn't get a chance to respond to my point regarding leaving the Earth. You know, if an asteroid comes, the whole story from the beginning of the end, it starts being on Earth and it ends on Earth, and it's biblical. And I would love to know if I'm wrong, Batman.
That's actually an interesting direction for the conversation. I'm on board. What do you got to say, Batman?
I don't necessarily find that conversation important, mainly because there's a myriad of interpretations, for example, about heaven as a place or an existence or a state of mind that people have once they are in Christ. And because I personally don't have any strong feelings about how that might manifest, I tend to just kind of stay away from that conversation.
Well, then we don't need him. If that's the way he feels about it. I have very strong feelings about this. So P-Town, what you're saying basically, Batman, I'll bring you back in a minute. What you're saying basically, P-Town, is that if we're understanding the text correctly, and if the promises are that what we're having a conversation about tonight will be actually accomplished by those in heaven, if that's what you mean, there's a decent argument for that, I think. I'd like to hear more.
Okay.
And you can bring Batman back in. I'm going to pop out to the side chat for a bit. You'll have a good one.
Hey, Bree, thanks for coming by.
Absolutely. Always love coming by.
Love you.
Love you too.
Later days, Bree.
Later, y'all.
Okay, P-Town, floor's yours.
Okay, so hopefully I'll try to make myself clear. So the whole ensemble of the Bible from the beginning to the end is based on Earth, being on Earth. Revelation is focused on the Earth. Having a discussion about an asteroid coming and then us moving our civilization to another planet goes against the whole story that's foretold in the Bible. And that was my premise. And
let me ask you some questions, clarifying questions. Have angels ever resided on this earth long term?
I would presume I don't know if that's a trick question, but
No,
angels
it's not a trick
have
question.
come to the earth long term. Yeah, they'll come
No,
back.
not have singular angels lived on the earth long term. I said have all the angels lived on the earth long term.
I don't know.
What do you think the Bible says about that?
Well, I think that there were some angels that came down before Noah and made little babies, and then God was mad and flooded the earth. And there's a whole other stuff.
How many were in that group?
There's probably a whole lot, buddy, because there's a lot of demons
the
left
only
over.
The only count of them is from the books of Enoch, saying they were 200. That's the only count anywhere.
I like studying the Enoch. I like reading Enoch. I think that it's something I feel like I have to be careful with, though, because
so if we take that 200 and we add in, let's say, Lucifer, and let's add in Gabriel, however you want to say that, whatever language you like,
right?
We add in all the individual messenger angels, the angel of God. We end up with about 210. Well, and I think none of them lived long term here, not even the fallen.
I don't know your point, but also I think that quoting the book of Enoch, you got to be careful with that. I wouldn't consider that.
I am speaking,
inspired.
Admittedly, from within what I believe is true. I'm admitting that. If you show me something that I'm saying that is not true, I'm willing to change. Okay.
Well, I appreciate your love for that book, like I do. I just wouldn't say that it's 67 books of the Bible.
Fair enough. I call it a separate book myself, even though it is Catholic canon in Ethiopia.
Is
but
it
that's
really?
Aside from yes, sir, it is. But that's aside.
Yeah, that's
the Ethiopians would not drop it.
Right.
It was long tradition before there was even Judaism.
I think it's a great tool to use to study the Bible. I do.
Okay.
So we're in agreement. Let's continue.
My point is that angels have not lived on this earth long term in any large number. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, I guess possibly. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what living on the earth means. Yeah.
A little bit, like us now.
Yeah.
They don't do that, right?
Correct.
Okay. Are angels able to interact with reality, physical reality?
Yes.
Yes. Do angels promise to reveal to us as the earth, the whole earth, some truth about God in some future time? Do they promise to do that?
Yes.
Okay. If I said obviously intelligent, able to interact with reality, beings who never lived in mass as a society on this planet, arrived to this planet, what would you call that?
I would say be careful. Could be a trick, but I don't know what to call it.
It could be a trick, but generally, definitionally, what do we call that kind of a situation?
If you're looking for a word, I can't pull it out right now.
How about alien invasion?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
That's what most of the people will believe. Correct.
It'll be perceived
you and I won't.
as well, I will not, because I'm in on it's not a joke.
We know
but I'm in on it.
We know it. Yeah.
Okay. But it will be generally seen as an alien invasion.
Right.
That's the kind of conversation we need to be having.
Right.
Okay. So we may be working toward making humans live forever, defeating all diseases, and leaving this earth behind. I find it ironic that secular persons not believing in God are trying to create a heaven.
Correct.
All right, just so we're on the same page. All right, that was it.
Yeah, I think we believe in the same enemy and the same plan. Now, Batman, as a Christian, do you see my point at least? Like, you can disagree with me, but it's okay if you don't believe in the Bible, I guess.
I mean,
But
it has nothing to do with whether or not I believe in the Bible. If I'm a Christian person, I must believe in it. But that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying that that's the idea as to how heaven exists and how it manifests is not
wait, can
something.
I clarify? I didn't catch that. So you're saying you can be a Christian without believing in the Bible, or what did you say?
No, I said that that's not important to the conversation.
Believing in the Bible?
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Okay.
see.
He only blew off your side comment. He's saying he does believe in the Bible. He didn't want to address whether or not he believes in the Bible, but carry on with the conversation.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so I'm saying that I don't think the conversation about how heaven exists is important. The only thing I care about is people's relationship with Christ and the life that they get to live based on that relationship. Heaven, there have I've read the Bible actually through and through a couple times, and I still don't fully understand how heaven exists. I've listened to many different opinions, into as to how it might exist, and I don't necessarily have a strong opinion on it. So, in regards to the idea that the Bible solely focuses on earth and everything that happens in the Bible only happens on earth, right, is not something that I'm going to sit here and say, hey, that is the case. And I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, that's not really the case. Because there's a few events in the Bible that happen. For example, Enoch, right? He was spirited away to heaven. I did air quotes, right? And eventually he got turned into Metatron, right? Scribe of God. So keeping those, with those things in mind, right? uh, I don't, you know I don't know how those things manifest, right? I think they probably happened one way or the other sometime in the past, right? But I don't have a strong opinion on those things. So that's why I didn't really want to address your comment. I don't know. Does that make sense?
I don't want to say that you don't make sense, Batman.
No, if you say
I don't want
if
to.
I don't make any sense, just you can tell me or ask
Well,
me
I
for a
think
better way to explain things.
like I said earlier, like I have to defend the Bible. If when
Sure.
if people are going to group me in with Christians that believe in evolution and don't believe in the Bible, then I have to put up a defense. It's not me. It's what I
Sure.
have to do.
And that's fine. Like if you see some kind of conflict between evolution and the Bible, then I understand the apprehensiveness that you might hold, but I personally don't see any form of conflict. So that's not even an issue for me, and it's not even a conversation really worth having, right? Because take for example, right? You could look at some Christians, like famous Christians like John Lennox. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, right? He's a mathematician, right? Was a PhD, all of that stuff. One of the most smartest men on the planet, right? Um, he believes in the Bible, and he thinks evolution, as it's explained right now, is true, right? There's plenty of evidence for it in terms of the mechanisms as to how it operates, right? So there's no sense in denying reality. The question comes down to, for him and I guess other Christians, the question comes down to, okay, is this a process created by God, or is this a process that just manifested by itself?
Okay, well,
So
this is
that's
my
the question.
point. Is you're okay? You can have your belief, but I don't want other people, especially, to associate what I believe in any of that, because that's very
Sure,
dangerous. That's not the God of the Bible.
Okay,
sure, and
let's
and
talk
and
about the
that's
danger of
perfectly
it.
fine. I never said that you believed it.
Right, but
You're the
it's
one who
not.
brought it up.
I don't appear you as a threat, but it's other people that also will group me in with you and your
No one
buddy.
here is that
Oh,
unintelligent that they would accidentally group you in that way.
I don't think
right,
Yeah,
any two Christians have the same answer, much less a whole group of them.
and even
See,
that,
that's fair.
even not being unified, right? Even not being unified is also a danger
Why?
because
so
it's used as an argument all the time
Why? Just
against
because
us.
Christians can't agree with each other, that means that all of them have to be wrong? That's bad thinking.
So the most
I
non-dangerous
didn't
thing to
say
do,
that, but
so the most non-dangerous thing to do is, of course, accept his interpretation. Everybody, jeez.
yeah,
No, I didn't say you said that, P-Town. I said whoever said that made a bad argument. It's
I
human
agree
nature
with
to
you.
debate things.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with us debating things. We should be interested in the truth, whatever it is, whether we like it or not. And when we've received enough evidence to become convinced of a thing, we should become convinced of it.
Right.
So whoever said Christians can't agree with you, that which logical fallacy is that? That's saying that it's like saying the wall doesn't stand because all the bricks are different.
I've seen walls being built with different bricks,
See,
different
it's not a
sizes.
problem. It just makes an ugly wall.
Hey,
It doesn't
I'll
make
be
the
right
wall
back, guys.
inconvenient.
Hey, why
I'll
does
be
it
right
have to
back.
be ugly?
It's only okay. An interesting wall. Sorry, I'm a builder. You buy two different brands of lumber, and the 2x4s will not be the same measurement. Trust me. It's just the way it is.
Gotcha.
Okay. I want to have the conversation ex nihilo creation with P-Town when he comes back. But for now, Batman, I'm interested in. It seems the more I hear of your mind instead of you inquiring as to mine, the more I think that you are possibly a Jesus mythicist and a more of a philosophical Christian. Is any of that true of you?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't even
Always
know
be
what
honest with me.
I don't even know what the term Jesus mythicist even
Oh, that
means.
Jesus was a myth, not an actual person.
Oh, oh no,
A
I
very
think Jesus was an
maybe a
actual
useful
person.
myth. You think it was an actual person? Okay.
Yeah. Listen, I'm sure you heard me say this before. I believe in talking
Maybe.
snakes and talking donkeys. If that
I
doesn't
don't.
no,
I don't.
okay,
And in
it's a
fact, if you look into the definitions of those words there that are there, we interpret as serpent and donkey. They are definitionally anthropomorphizing those animals,
those animals. Yeah,
giving them human traits. Okay, to the extent that it can't mean the animal, it has to mean a human acting that way.
yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily think that it was like literal.
Like if you
That's it.
look up in the story of the talking donkey or ass,
Balaam.
you'll find out it's a she ass. And a she ass was thought of as dependable, family oriented, agreeableness, strong, sure footed, things like that. Okay. And there's another word in the Bible that got translated as ass, but it means he-ass, namely a red-haired he-ass, having red hair like the red of a slime pit, that you can't trust this thing for anything. And that's what those words ass mean in the Bible, and they're never used interchangeably.
Okay, I'm back. I missed everything, just for the record. Sorry about
All
that.
right. You apparently have children. I thank you for your dad work. You are the second most important human being on the planet in their eyes. Congratulations.
Damn, the second.
Well, mom's more
God's
important.
first.
Sorry, dads. Mom wins. I don't care.
Yeah.
But no,
Well,
Richard, I get what you're saying. Especially with uh, the story with Balaam.
yes, that's the story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I anthropomorphized a she ass to the point where this thing almost can't fail, and the definition does. Okay, so I have a thing that can't fail. On its back is a rider. The rider is abusive. Okay. In front of it on the path is an angel. Now the she ass sees the angel and the rider does not.
He's too busy being abusive.
Well, yes, he's too busy being abusive, but tell me why the she ass sees the angel and the rider does not.
You know what? That's a really good question. I actually never pondered that after like reading that story.
I have a very open mind when I read the Bible.
Hey,
Let me show you what
What
I
is
discovered.
What does it mean?
It's a story about Christ in the Old Testament and about the beast of Satan in the Old Testament, saying that the beast of Satan rides his back, pretends to be in charge, we would say today riding his coattails. That's how we would say that. Okay.
Okay.
But in that time frame, in those people in that part of the world, it would have been riding the back of, like you're carrying the guy. So the she ass, who's dependable and almost can't fail, sees the angel. You see what the story is talking about here?
Yeah, but the angel had full intent to strike Balaam.
Right. That fits perfect, doesn't it?
Yep.
The Antichrist dies. He is destined to die, and he cannot see the angel. You see? In fact, every part of the story works perfectly definitionally from those words. What Christians don't do is look up the Hebrew words. They just believe whatever their preacher says. That's a mistake.
Yeah, I will say though. So I've been attempting to. I call it a double read, where I'm reading the Bible and I'm reading, like, I guess the direct Aramaic or Hebrew translations, right? And I will say it's very interesting, and it did change my perspective on a few things, at least definitionally. Go ahead.
Let me just encourage that by saying the following. What do you think the likelihood is that very long lineage of Jews, and I mean bloodline Jews, all agreed to having zero failures, and no one prayed poorly or let their own bias get into the equation, properly, well, first of all, had firstborn a son 100% of the time, and then perfectly named them according to God's plan so that their name meant the high point of their life or their purpose in the story. You see, there's this human nature factor within that, where there should be failures. There are zero failures. Every name in the Bible is what the person does. For instance, Noah means to give rest.
Right.
That's
Comfort
not
or rest.
coincidental.
Yeah.
That
No.
the name Abel means vanity. The name Cain means transition. The name Jesus means that Jehovah is salvation. Every single one of their names is their life.
I would stem as far as say that that's applicable to a lot of our names now. Kind of crazy sometimes.
I can say that probably happens on occasion, but the chances of that happening 100%, that the word
Correct.
Tioga means who Tioga is, and Tioga was named properly from birth, is just highly unlikely.
Correct. I agree.
It's planned.
That's
But
right.
I do
It's
think
planned.
that God does plan. And he starts.
So, right.
About when
so
they
there's
name
two
you.
ways to look at it. It's a historical document where no one failed to name the kid wrong, including a Jew naming their son Phinehas, which means the mouth of a serpent, which is a cursing name, by the way.
It's crazy, some of the names, huh?
But I'll go ahead and read it to you because I got it right here. This is how profoundly true what I just said is. I'm going to read you the most boring thing you'll never want to read twice. As a Christian, as a believer in the Bible, or a studier of the Bible, you might read it one time. You're going to say, God, I am so glad I'm through that. I will never read it again. 1 Chronicles 6, 1 through 53. It's a list of names. When you read it in the translation, it reads so-and-so begat, so-and-so begat, so-and-so. And it goes on for 53 verses. So here's 1 Chronicles 6, 1 through 53. I'm going to read them all to you. But this is translated from the original meanings of the names. Tell me this is an accident. Try to convince me it's an accident. United, these are, I'm going to read you a list of names. I'm seriously reading you a list of Hebrew names. You ready? United by a refugee, an ally to the bitter, an ally to the high people, the anointing seat of association and the strength of God from high people, the wish of God drawing out people rebelliously, the wish of God and a volunteer worshiper of God. God is a helper from the high desirable place. God is a helper against the mouth of a serpent. There's Phineas. Father of plenty to depopulate from the forceful. Jah has risen rebellious. Jah has said, his brother of goodness and his brother and his just brother of anger. Jah has helped, sending him whom Jehovah has favored. Jah has helped. Jah has said the brother of goodness is just in retribution and a portion of Jah. Jah has helped. Jah has prevailed. Jehovah has righted. Jehovah has righted, went down. The Lord carried away the celebrated, founded peaceful by employing the hand of a great stone. To unite a refugee, an ally to the bitter, a refugee who is white, a famous ally to the high people, the anointing seat of association and strength of God to the bitter, sick, sensitive, that they will be united, a refugee and a man of unity with a plan. Jehovah has brothered a timely rising of light, stepping forward as an ally to the people of liberality, to be made smooth of a prisoner. God has obtained the father of gathering, the prisoner of the bottom. The flame of God and the strength of God has been asked. God has obtained. The burdensome brother of death, God has obtained. God has obtained honeycomb, given God of our fathers and his compassionate. God has obtained him who has heard of God, a boy, the father worshiper of Jah. The father is Jah, worshiper of Jah. He is for the bitter, the sick. He is famous. He is the strength and annunciation of the festival of Jah. Now that's half of it.
Dude, send me that.
I could take pictures of it. Those are that I just read you a list of Hebrew names. In other words, if in that time and in that part of the world you heard, what was it? First Chronicles 6, 1 through 53, that's what you'd have heard. And by the way, it keeps going on and it describes end times.
Dude, I'm putting my email in the chat. Send me that.
Okay.
Batman,
But you
have
can
you
do it
seen
yourself.
Yeah, it's better that way. Have you seen the? Well, you should read them. You should read them. Adam to Noah.
Yeah, that's my point. Thank you, P-Town. All the lists of names are lessons.
And even in the words themselves have meaning.
Yes.
Quite phenomenal. It's absolutely divine.
Well, it's at least immensely brilliant. We can say that. Absolutely.
I stretched a little bit, I guess.
I mean, to be logically sound, you can say something like, I can show this is immensely brilliant. And you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's my email. Send me that.
Okay.
So what does it go from Adam to Noah? Man appointed mortal sorrow. Right, I think. Man appointed mortal sorrow.
Some scholars already done that one, so I didn't do it.
Oh, you didn't do it? Yeah.
No, but it's been done.
Oh yeah. Done a long time ago.
But I didn't know of anyone doing the really long lists, so I did one of those.
Oh well,
that should have.
That was
How long
I
did
bet
it
you there's
take
a
you
lot
to
of
put that together? It's crazy.
There's a lot of in-depthness.
Few hours. I mean, I just used a computer,
right,
and just took that list of names that's there by using the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance in Blue Letter Bible, and just wrote down the words that it said. That's all it took. I didn't have to change the order of one single word.
Right.
Now, if someone says that's some kind of, and by the way, there are Christian preachers who will discourage you from doing that. And I'll tell you why. Because if you do all of those, you can't go to a Christian church anymore. Because you'll find out that all the Christian churches are shallow and almost meaningless, and they only have highlights. And after you do enough of that, you'll just be bored going. You'll just be like, why are you talking milk? Why are you talking milk? It'll drive you nuts.
You and me, brother.
You send me that, Richard? I'm like literally waiting.
Oh, you meant right now? I have to take. I'm gonna have to. I've never done it except in my personal notebook. So I will take photographs of it at the best possible resolution with a decent camera, and I will send you those via your email.
Awesome.
Here, send them to me too.
Do you have an iPhone or an Android phone?
It's an iPhone.
Okay, all right, never mind. Damn it.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Androids for the win.
Yeah.
Look, I took it as a gift from my main employer because I'm going to be working so remotely that I won't have electricity and water there. And she wanted me to have like the possibility of making a phone call to announce my own death. Whatever.
Oh my God. No, so on Android there's an app called Google Lens, and what it does is that you can like take the picture of someone's handwriting and it'll basically like translate
it into text.
Make it into
text.
That.
Yeah. That's why you asked. I get it.
Hey, that comes in handy a lot, for my job because
Apple probably has an app for that. But anyway. You guys are a great time. I want to say that before any more leave.
Back at you.
Okay.
Let's see.
Are you ever going to hear a preacher preach on what was that? Second Corinthians 1 through 56 or 65. I can't remember. You ever going to hear a preacher preach on that? No, you won't.
No.
Do they know it should be translated and it's under-translated? Most don't.
I don't necessarily think they care. And
No.
I don't think they even necessarily think that it's their job to educate. I think they, yeah, I'm being honest.
Wait.
Like,
There's a preacher who thinks their job is not to educate the masses.
Well,
What do
when
they
I say
think their job
educate,
is,
not.
then?
They're supposed to feed the flock, right?
Well, when I say educate, right? I don't mean in the general sense of making people aware of Christ and stuff like that, right? Trying to save their souls and leading them to salvation. Like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, like, for example, what you just kind of demonstrated, right? To give people in-depth knowledge and understanding of the Bible and what it has to say, right? Because I think the most fascinating thing about the Bible is its extensive, how should I put this? Like, its say on the human condition and the many ways it can manifest is brilliant, right? And I think the fascinating thing about it is that it all just came back down to love, right? And yes, even though it's a commandment, essentially saying, hey, you need to do this, right? It's a commandment that, it's not made to just benefit one, it's made to benefit all, right? And if you build societies off of that one specific commandment, love your neighbor, love your neighbor as yourself, your neighbor being everyone, right? Even the people you don't like, right? um I think it'll make it easier for us to achieve a semi-hive mind.
I believe you're fundamentally correct.
I don't think that anyone
There's
else
a lot of
agrees.
details attached to that. But yeah, I think you're fundamentally correct. For everyone watching in the chat and in the panel, I want to reassure you that I was not unfair. The last time Jill was on this channel, I specifically told them this is not a political platform. We are not discussing politics, and we will not be. And I asked him to never do it again. And I made a promise to him. I gave him my word. Let your yay be net yay. I just blocked him. Just so you guys know, I did tell him not to do that.
Oh, I don't even have the chat up. I didn't even know he was
I do know you told him not to do that. And of course, he just can't help himself. It's his.
That's okay.
It's his only go-to.
That's fine. It just means he doesn't belong here. So I'll increase his happiness by encouraging him to find a place he belongs.
Well said.
That's actually pretty cool. I belong in Gotham though. Just saying.
You belong what?
In
golf?
In Gotham.
Gotham. That's right. Never break character.
Hey, listen, man. Sometimes when I get the nights off, I like to engage in these types of conversations. I do pray every night before I go out there and beat up bad guys for forgiveness. I'm sorry, guys, ignore me.
It's an interesting premise. It really is.
Richard Matson, can I ask you a question?
You mean another one?
Yeah. Are you familiar?
Okay, go ahead.
Are you familiar with Michael Jones, the Inspiring Philosophy channel?
Oh yeah.
I know who that is, and I know that the channel exists.
No, I just wanted to mention because someone said something about Christianity kind of revolving around Earth, and of course, if you've heard his take, he kind of extends it beyond Earth in the sense that he takes the golden rule and he kind of extrapolates to a kind of galactic utopia where there's a brotherhood among the entire species. Where if you think of the planet as the placenta, that we're kind of an infantile species waiting to be birthed into a galactarian species that will take out into the stars and with peace and brotherhood and the principles of Christianity and the golden rule and so forth. I don't know if you ever heard him say something like that.
He
I
stole
have
that from
not.
Richard.
He did not steal it from me. He barely even knows me. I doubt he stole it from me. But I do assert that it's necessary from within the religious stories that is a fairly decent overview of what's going on here.
Apparently, Jill is determined to be miserable. He's just going to keep jumping in here on sock accounts.
My friend Titan Uranus, feel free to take care of that. If you would, please. I know you don't have to, but I appreciate it if you did. Now, should he come under a sock and start joining in the conversation, I expect that sock account to stay. Okay. I think that most of us can agree that all of humanity is not going to live in one state on the Gaza Strip, and that's not the promise. I think we can all say that pretty safely. First of all, we won't fit in the state of Israel, 8 billion-ish people. That's just not going to work out. So when it says promised land, when the text reads promised land, it's not talking about some place on the Gaza Strip. It's talking about heaven. Okay. Then it reads, when you take the promised land, there will be those there who do not call me God. What? In heaven, there are those there who do not call our God, God. But there's this other standard rule. There are no liars in heaven. What? They're telling the truth that that's not their God? Yes. And they're living there. Now, you can go a lot of places with that. The Bible doesn't describe it beyond that. You could say something like they sought asylum. They need safety. There are other governances or other gods, possibly, attaches, politicians. You can go a lot of places with it. But the text is quite clear on this point. There are those in our heaven who will not call our God, God. Now, what kind of an animal could be in heaven, residing there long term, which would not call him God? Anybody?
Are you being serious right now?
I'm quite serious.
You want an actual animal named? Seriously?
No. Just a general term.
Well, the
So
Taoist
not an
sage,
animal?
the Taoist sage did say the name that can be named is not the eternal name.
That is true. P-Town?
Are you looking for the name of an animal?
No, I'm not. I'm looking for a general term to describe that situation where there is a sentient living in your God's heaven, not calling him God, and it's not lying.
Not calling him God, and it's not lying.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be Christ?
Christ calls God God.
Like what? Just like another
Doesn't
person
he
in
call
a
him
different
Father?
religion?
It wouldn't
called
be
him
from
God
another
once.
religion. The claim is there's only one God for humankind.
Yeah, but my question is,
Just tell us.
didn't he call him Father?
What's that?
Wouldn't he call him Father?
Yes, he says to him the Father is God, and call none the Father but God. He calls the Father God. He says God is the Father. So no, that doesn't resolve the issue.
Hmm.
How about this? Just something alien. How about that? It's just some alien species, or maybe several of them, maybe millions of them. It's hard to say. It says we're not to
Oh,
take them for marriage, and we're not to give our daughters or sons to marriage to them. You don't intermingle with them.
That's way out there, dude. I
heck.
respect it.
So you know what? That's a really good point because you remember yesterday I accused you of being a humanist,
I am.
right? So and so now so P Town would probably have issue with me saying this yesterday when I shared. I said, I think Jesus Christ died for all sentient thinking beings with a soul,
Yes, that's what you'd
right?
said.
Right. How do you feel about that, P Town?
I think I gotta go on that note, guys. I think I'm gonna go tuck my little baby in.
All
Thanks
right,
for all your
it's
dad
a
work, P
Yeah,
pleasure.
Town.
yeah. Maybe I'll be back later. But
All
yeah,
right,
that
Pete.
one's
Take care.
see you guys.
Yeah, they're not really
any
small ideas that are easy to consider.
any takers? No.
Repeat it for me.
Oh, I believe Jesus died on the cross for all sentient all sentient beings with a soul.
Do you also maintain that our God made Satan?
Yeah.
I'd like to know why.
Well, when you say Satan, do you mean he made a challenger for us?
You could say that. If that's your justification, I'll hear it.
Okay. I think the challenger is. I think the challenger is necessary in the sense that um, it allows us to. How should I put this? So it allows us to consider the deepest aspects of what makes us like the duality aspect as to what makes us human, right? The free will aspect of it, right? Because if we don't consider the other side of living, the morally speaking, right? Then I don't think we're necessarily worthy of whatever rewards we might get um, through how we live in the first place. Like if you don't consider what bad is or what it means to be bad, right? Then how can we be justified in getting to that ultimate prize, so to speak, or getting to heaven? Not that I'm saying necessarily it's I, I don't necessarily think the challenger necessarily, if you grant me that, the Satan, the traditional Satan that most Christians would use, right, or the Antichrist or opposer of God, right? Um, I think that was just an entity that had a a good relationship, but eventually that relationship soured, and thus now becomes a challenger, right? And so I think that challenger is necessary because I think, and at the same time, I think these heavenly hosts, aka angels, right? I think they have a, a semi hive mind,
Okay.
right? I don't think we have that, and so and so we're not necessarily limited, um, morally and spiritually in terms of where we can end up. And I think we need that in order for us to fully mature as a species, to
Hmm.
make to make, I guess, the decision that would lead to us flourishing on I guess a universal scale.
Well, it's evident to me that if I say the sentence compare a nickel, your brain will say compare a nickel to what? Okay. Because you need two things to compare them. That's the way our brains work. If we didn't have suffering here, we would not even attempt to keep suffering out of our heaven, out of our utopia. So I think that the suffering is necessary, at least for some small percentage of the total eventual population. So it's easy for me to justify the problem of evil, if that's what you meant by all that.
Yeah, but I'm not necessarily just talking about physical suffering. I'm also talking about the mental and even spiritual suffering that people that people
Yes,
go
that
through.
too. That it causes all that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Is there anything logically impossible about this God creating a universe where that wasn't necessary?
I don't know.
Well, is there anything self-defeating within the statement, God created a universe where there is no suffering? Is there anything logically defeating about that?
I mean, God could create a universe without suffering.
Okay,
Just
then
create
why
a
not?
universe with nothing in it.
Okay, but then why not that?
Because that's not what he
Although
desires.
that's kind of cheating. It's kind of cheating because I can imagine a universe with no suffering. I can imagine a realm with no suffering where humans exist. Can you
You know
guess why
what?
I said realm?
Okay. I
Because that's a promise of heaven.
I want to answer your question,
Yeah.
but I would like to do a show on it. That specific question.
No, my friend, there
Um,
will never be enough time for all the conversations we want to have. You just have to
I
do what you
know,
can right now.
I know, but it's like, okay, so I've been doing a reading, some reading, and I need to find that freaking blog about existence, right? Existence and suffering, and why, and asking the question, can God suffer, right? No, because he's not lacking anything, right? But everything that comes from God, right, would suffer because they will always lack everything.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And so I think suffering, right, even if even if you come directly from God, you're almost as powerful, but you'll never be as powerful, right? You wanting to be as complete as God, but never being able to get to that point would be a form of suffering. So I think
Okay. If
suffering
you want to
is,
identify suffering that way, that's okay.
yeah, I think suffering is inevitable for all lesser existences if they have desire.
Okay, that reasonably follows, but rationally follows, but I'm going to have to think about it because it seems to me intuitively that's flawed in some way.
See, that's what I'm saying. I don't think I did a really good job of explaining that, and so
Okay.
I want to do. I want to see
Okay,
if I can
sometime
find that
we'll
blog and read
dedicate
it.
a show.
Yeah.
We'll dedicate a show. But for now, it's bedtime for an old man. So I want to hear from everyone. I want everyone to shill their stuff, the things they're doing, brag on their kids, whatever you got. Let's start off with Tioga, if you can come up right away.
I don't have anything, but I love you guys and you're super awesome. And I hope you have a good night.
Peace and respect, Tioga. Thanks for coming. Cafe.
Yeah. Bye.
I'll just say real quick to Batman. I don't know if you ever looked into mysticism, but it involves merging consciousness with God, and so and the method to do that is to rid of all desire. And you mentioned desire as something that hinders us as approaching God. So I would just add that as a suggestion to look into.
Oh, definitely, definitely. That's Buddhism speak a lot about that being a part of suffering. So that's definitely something I'm acute to looking up to. Thanks for the suggestion. I'll definitely look into it.
Batman, final thoughts.
I definitely enjoy this conversation. All of you guys, please like the video. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and share. Um, you know, I appreciate Richard taking his time off tonight to entertain me and my crazy thoughts whenever I'm not protecting Gotham from all the criminals and trying to, you know, make a better world. But please join our hive mind so we can make the world a better place and we can all be good friends.
Thanks for coming. Pixie, you there? 'Cause you're not
Yeah,
always.
I'm here. This time. I don't have a channel. Nothing to show. Keep coming back here because Richard's awesome.
Uber Munch, latest accomplishment. Go.
Super Munchkin. Still working, still making straight A's in all her honors. The teacher she's helping out with other students adores her. She is doing fabulous.
You did a good job, Mom. Congratulations. All right, guys. Kick yourselves whenever you want. You know I don't do that. Peace and respect to you all, everyone who came by tonight, especially if you came into the talk. I'm sorry that I don't have 300 positions for a larger panel, but that would just be confusing and a mess anyway, because you guys try to be good to each other, but humans are humans. So thank you all for coming by. Every single one of you know that I love you, and I look forward to the day that we're all great friends. Till next time.
Join the hive mind.